So, my job is primarily working with businesses and communities to help them develop their tourism product. But from a sustainability standpoint, it's types of tourism that is, low impact and that generates positive benefits for the communities and the environment where people travel and how they travel. A tourist is somebody who has traveled more than 50 miles from home and is staying overnight. So it's anybody who meets that qualification and then gets on a bike. So it could be anyone from an urban traveler who just wants to ride from their hotel and cruise around the waterfront to somebody who wants to do a longer tour, with the bags on their bike and travel across the state or to another destination. But communities are benefiting from cycling tourism through similar ways that they would benefit from other tourists, through lodging. They're eating in their restaurants, they're drinking a lot of microbrews, and they're staying the night. And what we found in 2009 was that 1.3 million visitors to Oregon actually biked when they were here and had an economic impact across the state of 233 million. And that was kind of a thumbnail sketch that we did. We cross-tabulated some data. I just think it's a natural fit for rural communities. They have the assets that are already needed, especially in Oregon, but I think in many places in the U.S. Where you've got the nice paved streets, the wide shoulders, low traffic, and it's just connecting all of these little communities out in those places where people might not be willing to venture otherwise. But now that they have an activity and something to do, it's just kind of a natural fit. We've run into barriers here and there, and they're mostly, internal community barriers. They're not so much things that we get in the middle of, but internally there are folks that have reservations out in our agricultural areas. Folks that are driving the farm trucks and the semis get really concerned with cyclists on the road, especially during harvest season, because they can't slow down necessarily around corners. That are worried about safety. I would say safety is probably the #1 issue that comes up in rural communities. Yeah, so one of the biggest challenges that rural communities face in developing their cycling tourism is being able to develop regularly interspersed lodging opportunities. They have opportunities within their city limits, but as soon as you get outside of that, you are working within the Oregon land use planning system, which is unlike anywhere in the country, that limits the type of development on farmland and forest land. So there are a number of property owners out in these rural areas that would like to add some kind of value and possibly develop some kind of small lodging or B&B type of an operation, but the land use laws actually restrict them from doing that. So one of the things that Senator Merkley is looking at with us in Cycle Oregon is to possibly designate a pilot route where we might actually experiment with developing kind of high quality, unique lodging at regular intervals to entice the type of cycling tourist who might not like to do the long haul types of trips, that might want to ride 30 miles, maybe even shorter, out to the coast from Portland, for example, because that's somewhere where people would probably really enjoy going, but the opportunities to stop and to stay and to have some kind of more of a leisurely experience is really challenging. So, so that's one of the barriers that a lot of communities face, is just simply how do we develop the infrastructure to really grow and to really make ourselves a world-class destination. So we have one of our subcommittees within that bike partnership group is focused on connectivity and trip planning for the cyclist, and we actually have identified that Amtrak is one of those key connectors, and we are fortunate to have one of their marketing reps in the Northwest who is really a big advocate for bikes. So it's working with her to get basically more bike storage on the trains that are already running, because right now you can put your bike on a number of trains but not all of them. The best example I can really point to is Wallowa County, which is in northeastern Oregon, and they sort of had a number of things align. With all of those things combined, the planning and the resources, they were able to do a lot of things really quickly. Installed 80 plus bike racks around the county, this is a county that has a population of 5,000 people. So it's very rural, it's off the beaten path, it's in the middle of nowhere, and they now have 80 plus bike racks that are around the community. They installed a bike rack on the front of the local shuttle so that they can move people around with their bikes. They developed a new road cycling map and a mountain biking map, which took something because they really had to get their arms around what mountain biking trails actually were in the area. And their bike shop actually moved from being at the back of a hardware store and employing one person to having its own store and employing 3 people. And now they do, year-round bike rentals and bike service for the community and for visitors.